Good morning, and as you can see, it's quite a change from yesterday. The sun is shining, the sky is clear, and the trench is thankfully dry. So today's activities will largely be the removal of this layer of redeposited natural, which is probably the result of slumping down from the original earthwork. And that sealing, that siltier layer that Robin talked about yesterday, and that contained bits of daub, bits of charcoal. So that will largely be the bulk of this morning's work. My methodology this morning will be to draw a line just about here and work to that line, removing the redeposited natural and then exploring that siltier layer. You may wonder why I'm not pushing through and doing the entire earthwork as originally planned. There's a number of factors, not to mention the roots, the time constraints, and the balance of value towards time spent. So our intent here was to get a profile across the earthwork and the ditch and to recover dating evidence. We have already recovered dating evidence from two very important and crucial layers, and we have a sense of the profile of the rampart. So I will be concentrating on trying to get the profile of the base of the ditch, or at least as it runs down to the base that, unfortunately, if you remember from yesterday, is capped by this World War II era intrusion. So it's basically being as flexible as possible with the methodology to still stick to the intent of the research design while working around all the different complications. I think we still will have had a very successful excavation here in that we will have learned much more than we knew before, even if it's not quite as satisfying as having a nice clean trench with a beautiful profile right the way through it. Well, it's midday, it's quite chilly. Hopefully you can see that the gravels that had slumped down have been removed in this section, and I'm down onto now proper natural gravel. And here, this light band is the same surface as was shown in the rampart slot, that sort of whitish compacted ground level surface, what would have been the floor surface when the monument was built. So now we're down onto natural gravels here, but hopefully you can also see, if the lighting is all right, that this is a bit siltier, a little bit darker. So here we are, basically, this is the cut of the ditch. And so this is still ditch fill, this needs to come out. And that'll be the next thing that I do, is to remove that ditch fill. Hopefully that will take us down onto natural, and that will show us the curve of the Iron Age ditch. Now, of course, it's interrupted by this concrete beam that I'm sat on, so this will be a very small scale, limited window into the profile of the ditch itself. But that's what's on for this afternoon. But first, I think, a cup of tea. Well, again, the lighting is not fabulous here, but I'm hoping that you might be able to make out the difference between the sandier stuff lying above in this section and then that darker grey fill coming down onto the bottom. And as we come over and look, sort of coming down the trench, can you see that what we have here is some undisturbed natural gravel coming down, following the slope of the ditch cut, and then here we are down into that greyer fill. So that's the last little bit, and as you can see, as I zoom out, it's a very small slot between what we know is disturbed, so the disturbed material here relating to the World War II intrusion, and following the slope of the cut down, you can see this little bit of grey that possibly is undisturbed. It's like being stuck between the devil and the deep blue sea here. There's not very much room to manoeuvre. It's quite a tight spot in between the roots, and trying to just remove that material to see if we can at least get as far down to the bottom as is possible before hitting all the concrete and nonsense. So it's a shame actually that the true extent of the ditch cut has been truncated by the World War II action. But it's not been without its rewards, as we have some dating evidence from undisturbed layers. And of course we can add to the story of the trench in its World War II incarnation.
Well, it's been a pretty good day, and I think probably what I was talking about here was that tomorrow I'm going to record. I'm hoping to spend the first half of the day doing something along the lines of finishing off that narrow slot through the silt, and then I probably said something about taking some levels with a dumpy level, so we get accurate measurements of ground surfaces and the depths of the features. I'm going to draw some sections and make sure all the fines are matched up with their layers. I'll do some footage about that tomorrow. And then I probably said that I was going to put all that back in the trench, which I'm going to. If the weather holds, I probably made a bad joke about my back. So I'll see you tomorrow.